Hello and welcome to Bitch That's My Kind of Worship, a podcast by and for radical hotties the world over. My name is Lucy DK, and I'm an artist and writer obsessed with building the new world. This podcast is here to guide my fellow revolutionaries as we step into a collective healing journey that centers truth, justice, and returning to our limitless power. I will share practices, guidance, and conversations to keep your internal fires lit so you can let the old world crumble without fear and step into creating the future you were born for. It is our duty to fight for our freedom, and it is our duty to win. Hey hotties, I am so excited to be speaking with you today about the revolutionary journey and the stages that we go on when we're born as revolutionaries, when we're born into this world as revolutionaries. We are all different, we are all individual, we all have our own essence, our own set of circumstances and conceptions of self. But there are some really defining stages of the revolutionary journey, specifically when it comes to our identity as activists and as souls who have been placed here to create change, to usher in a new earth, a new world. And so I wanted to speak about this journey and start to really just spark our consciousness as to what this journey demands of us, because something that has been really clear to me lately is that we're often able to get really stuck into one stage of the journey without realizing there are stages ahead if we were to just move a little further, and if we were just to surrender a little more, if we were just to step a little deeper into trust. And so we often feel like we're coming up against a wall. And actually, when we have the consciousness of what the journey entails and the stages that there are, we can start to feel into, where am I in my journey? And really be honest with ourselves about where we're holding back. And it can really give us the motivation and the inspiration to start moving forward and to release some of that stagnancy. So that's what I'm really excited for. By the end of this episode, I feel like you'll have a really deep sense of where you are in your journey and what could really get you to the next page of your journey. And that's another reason why it's so important for us to share our journeys communally as well and collectively, so that we can really learn from each other and we can really see the nuances of the path. And the nuances of the path are the pieces that will then unlock a lot of what is actually possible for us on our journeys. And so to begin, and where I feel like the journey often starts, is in the incubator of human existence, which is when we are birthed onto this world. And it's very easy at the beginning of our journey to feel as if everything happens to us. Life happens to us. And to an extent, that's true, right? Like, we're born into a specific part of the world. Like, we have specific parents. We have a specific set of circumstances. We look a certain way. We have a specific body. We have specific abilities and gifts, and we don't have other abilities or gifts. You know, there's a specific set of circumstances that we are born into. And as that journey continues, we almost are in this incubator. It's like we're given this set of rules, set of expectations within the context, within the society that we're in. And it's like, okay, I do these things. I go here. This is what I eat. This is where I go to school if I go to school. You know, all of these different pieces that make up our consciousness and our conception of what the world truly is and what is possible for us within that world. And so then there comes a time when that incubator is broken open. It might be shattered by something that happens. It might be that there's just like a chink of light that continues to come in. It might be that we started to see somebody else a bit further away who's living a little bit differently, and we start to get curious. But whatever it is, there's this initial awakening, right? And I'd say in like a human context, it's almost like teenagehood. It's almost like you've grown up as a child and like what you've been told, like that's the world. And then there's like the phase of rebellion, think there's the phase of, okay, but actually let me try a different way, like a different ways than I've been told. But often this still exists within the conception of life as we know it, just maybe a little bit different to our family of origin. So it might be, say, we've been born into a specific family who gives us a certain set of rules, but maybe there are kids at school who are living in a different way and we're like, oh, I want to try what they're doing, like, or, and so we're still kind of like borrowing from other people's conceptions, but we just rebel against what it is that we've been initiated into. And we start to seek our own new initiations, and we start to get quite excited about that. And there's like a joy and an excitement to that. Or we might go the other way and be like so afraid of what we've been initiated into that we have a deep fear of authority, and we really want to be good, and we're really, wanting to please others. And so there are lots of ways that this can manifest, but this is kind of just like an early part of, I'd say, like most people on Earth's journeys, right? Like we all kind of go through that process. But what I'd say is really specific and unique and interesting for revolutionaries and activists specifically is that we really start to react to structures. It's not so much that we're like just saying, oh, my mom or dad told me this thing and I want to do this differently. But we start reacting to the actual systems around us that are controlling the way we live, the way we exist. So it might be something like even the fact of having to go to school, that might just start to seem really strange. And it's like, why do we all like troop in this uniform and, learn this way? It might be something to do with actually the country that you're part of and the politics of that country, in the sense that, wait, like these leaders that I'm supposed to look up to, like they're saying crazy things and I really don't agree with what they're saying. And I'm starting to question, why are these rules the way they are, and who is in charge, and what does it mean to follow the law if I don't believe in the lawmakers? And we start to have all of these questions about structure and about the way that society is set up. And so often that rebellious phase for us is not necessarily simply an individual rebellion. It's actually about rebelling against the system, against the social structure. And so often actually in that, we look for community, because what we're trying to do is essentially figure out, okay, like, are there others who think like me? Are there others who see things the way I do? And often that community leads us outside of our place of origin. Or even our family of origin, or whatever it might be. It might be that within our initial community that we were born into, we feel like an outsider. We feel like everybody is living in this way, everybody is following these rules, everybody like believes in this religion or whatever it might be. And religion is a big one as well. It might be that there's like a religious initiation that happens at a certain age. I know in my own life it was Catholicism, and so there's like an age when you do your confirmation, maybe you're like 12 or 13. And so that could be an initial spark of, or maybe actually not, no, I think you're like 14, 15, 16, but that might be an initial spark of, I don't want to make these vows, or I don't want to agree to this, right? And so you start to look around and feel like you don't belong because everybody else is like, falling in line and they're wanting to do that, or they're wanting to walk that certain way. And I think that feeling continues and only intensifies as you get older, especially if you're in a place where there are specific ways of living. So it might be that everybody is getting into a certain type of partnership, or is like wanting to get married very young, or, any of these things where you start to feel like, wait, everybody's doing this, but something in me is really, really resisting this, That's when that initial awakening begins. And for those of us with revolutionary blueprints and activist blueprints, it's often also that we're born into lineages of struggle. So we might have like lineages of either resistance or revolution, or it might just be lineages where there's been a lot of violence experienced, or a lot of suppression or repression, or a lot of land stolen or whatever it might be, like often will have been born into lineages where there's actually a deep sense that the world is unfair, or like that things have happened that shouldn't have happened. And there can be a split sometimes as to whether the people who are around us at that time, they might have an understanding of the historical nature of that, but they might not be activated to change it. They might believe that that is how the world is. And so there might be like a nihilism as part of that. Or we might be born into a lineage where resistance is key and core to understanding ourselves and our heritage and our culture. Or we might be actually severed from our connection to that culture. So it might be something where we have a particular lineage, but so for myself, for example, it's like I was born into Europe and into England and into a British institution and way of living. And that's half of my lineage. But the other half of my lineage is Zimbabwean and native to the land in Zimbabwe. And so there's a big disconnect if you're severed from one side of your lineage, as I was in England when I wasn't growing up with the Zimbabwean part of my family. And so then there becomes a longer process of reconnection to that lineage or rediscovery of what that lineage is truly asking of you or is truly calling you to do. So I think that first stage is just like that initial awakening. It's that initial sense of, I've been born into X, but it's this initial stage of I've been born into this specific way of being, but is this really the way that I believe I should be living? And with that comes often a lot of anger, often a lot of rage, and often just a lot of confusion. You might be someone who is like a big rebel, but I know for me, that's not how I came into revolution at all. Like I was never angry because that rage had all been suppressed. And so I didn't have a voice. I was very, very silent. I completely had learned how to fawn, how to please the oppressor, how to speak so nicely. And all of that actual rage and anger about what had happened to part of my lineage was very much suppressed. And so often what you'll feel in those situations is a feeling of confusion. So I remember for me, that was a really clear piece, was a confusion of not being able to reconcile what you feel inside in your soul with what you see manifest around you externally. And so there's a real confusion and a real sense of, you're not sure what is right, and you don't even really know why you feel how you feel. You just know that something is off, like something is not sitting right. And so I feel like the second piece that then becomes really, really pertinent, whether it's that you've been a real rebel or whether you've just felt quietly confused, is that you will have to find answers for your emotional response. Like whether you're angry, whether you're confused, whatever it is, you're feeling something that is not sitting. You're feeling like you're outside of things. You're feeling like you don't belong, or you're feeling a real rebellion and resistance or hatred even of a system. And you look for answers, basically, like you seek. And this is often before you've even got to any sense of a spiritual part of the journey. Often we speak about like spiritual seekers, but I feel like for revolutionaries and activists, often the process of seeking is very much seeking answers within the world. Like it's seeking what happened, like what's the history? And often so much of that history has been erased that you're having experiences in your body and you have the imprints in your body of what happened to your ancestors, but you don't actually necessarily have the rational answers in your mind for what it was that happened. You don't know. Nobody has told you, or they've hidden that information from you. Or it might be that everybody knows, but are too scared to speak of it because of what happened. So there might be this like collective fear, this collective silencing. Whatever it is, you realize that you need answers, that you need to know more, that you need knowledge. And so a big part actually of the revolutionary and activist blueprint is knowledge seeking. And people do this in different ways. So for some people, it can be very academic. Like there are a lot of revolutionaries who are deep in books, who are deep in study, and for whom like that process of research and uncovering and speaking to people and like uncovering the history, basically uncovering the stories, uncovering what has been taken in whatever context or field that is. Like for some people it might be the history and politics side, for some people it might even just be the religion side or the indigenous wisdom side, right? Wanting to speak to elders or wanting to reconnect with different parts of their community. It might be music, and it often applies to whatever our specific gift is. So it might be that you're seeking your own lineage through that. It might be food often, right? Like understanding like what are my cultural dishes. And I think there is a big process of knowledge seeking that happens when we're really trying to connect to what it is our family has experienced, what we are experiencing, what has gone unsaid in our family of origin, our community of origin, what is existing but has never been spoken into the room, right? There's just a lot of these things. And so we go on our own process of knowledge seeking. And I know for me, this process happened big time in an academic way when I was at university, where it was like I wanted to read the books, I was in the classes, and I finally felt like I was having this deep awakening where I was finally understanding this is like giving me language for so much of what I experienced that I never could understand, like I could never pinpoint, I could never speak, I never had words for. And so I continued to exist in my silence. And now I was like reading these incredible revolutionary writers and people who, spoke with such truth to the cause of justice, that I felt like I was having an awakening. Like it was a deeply spiritual experience, actually, I would now call it. At the time, I wouldn't have framed it that way because I wasn't spiritual, quote unquote. But what I was feeling was not just, oh, I'm reading the words and yes, this matches up. And it was a full body feeling of relief, enlightenment, a sense of peace, also a sense of fire, and finally connecting to and accessing anger, because suddenly it was like, wait, yeah, like this was crazy. Like I'm allowed to feel anger around this. And that process of knowledge seeking and coming to find your answers is really, really powerful. And a lot of that knowledge will often come with new community. And it's not necessarily new as in it's like a community that hasn't existed before. It's just new to you. So it's like something that you're led to, you're guided towards, that can give you that language, that can give you that community, can give you that validation for your experience. And maybe that's something that you didn't actually have before, but you start to find it. And with that, you start to find people who are like-minded, who have even more knowledge than you, and so really inspire you. You find elders, you find guides. There's this big process of starting to feel that, yes, like this is the way, the truth, and the light, right? And like there's this deep like process of gratitude as well, of like, oh my gosh, thank God, like I'm not alone. There's other people fighting this battle, or like who are just as like passionate or incensed about this cause, or like whatever it is. You just start to feel like, yes, I have community now, I have knowledge now, I see what needs to happen now. And so there's this great period of absorbing these answers, but then what it can really then transform into is a deep sense of righteousness. And I think it's important to say that I don't think this stage is one to skip. Like it's very easy to say, oh, like we shouldn't be righteous and we need to like move past that. And I will get to that because I do think we do. But there is a time and a place for feeling righteous, especially if you've come from a lineage where you've constantly been marginalized and silenced. It's very important to come into this almost regal, like it's almost like you're coming into this sense of being a boss again. Like you're like, wow, I've been like the small one, or I've been oppressed, like I've been silenced, I've been enslaved. And then to be like, wait, like I'm the baddest bitch alive. Like you guys thought you could do this to me and my people. Like you've now got the knowledge, you've got the community, you've got the fire, and you're suddenly also realizing in yourself, like you're beautiful. You're amazing. You come from this deeply rich lineage. Like you are now being reconnected with all of this power. And so you kind of go on a bit of an ego trip, I would say, definitely for me, this is something I experienced. But it's like you're definitely then in your way of thinking of, okay, I've discovered the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, right? And it's because this truth has been hidden from you for so long, but then that truth becomes your everything, your whole worldview, your entire belief system, and you kind of channel yourself fully in that path, with really no room for anything else to come in, and also with a big disdain for anyone who exists outside of that framework of that knowledge. If they don't have that knowledge, you're like, ugh, like, you know, they're so ignorant, like they need to educate themselves. Like you have a big kind of feeling of, wow, like anyone who has not awakened in the way that I have is against me, basically. And there's this deep sense of righteousness, often a lot of arguments, a lot of debate, a lot of like trying to bring this truth as you see it. It's kind of like when you're like a religious evangelical, right? And it's like you're wanting to convert everybody to what you believe is the truth because you genuinely believe it is what will save them. And so you're just bringing it to everything and you're bringing it everywhere and you're like, you know, shoving it down people's throats. And when anything that comes up that really triggers you in terms of your identity, your lineage, the things that have happened to you and your family and your ancestry, you have a really big emotional response, and that is something that makes you feel, again, like you need to fight, basically. So you're kind of righteous, in fight mode, like fire, like it's all guns blazing. But I will say I do think that period of time is important because it allows you to really land in, and especially in your body, land in the fact that fire is powerful, that you no longer need to be silent, that you are and have always been worthy, and that you have like a deep sense of belonging on this earth. And I think that period of time is really, really important and vital. And I think also in terms of connecting you with people who have a similar activist blueprint, it makes you magnetic to those people, and you can see each other and you become visible because you're speaking about what you believe. And so yeah, there's a lot of activation that happens around that. But what can happen then is that you can get stuck in that stage and you believe that you're basically like this regal, beautiful revolutionary speaking truth to power, you know, like a Bell Hooks, a James Baldwin, whoever it is, but actually like you're coming off as like an angry school child and you cannot see it, and you cannot see your own emotional reactions, and you cannot see how you're actually causing rupture and relational conflict, and how you do not actually have the skills to be able to facilitate and, you know, create new community and connection. And you know, you want this better world, but you're actually just in like a deep fight mode and causing a lot of chaos, and a lot of abuse even within interpersonal relationships and connection. And so it's really important that to move from this stage to a true healing revolutionary, we have to go on a healing journey, right? And it's almost like once that awakening has happened, that sense of, wait, like this is the truth, we also have to make space not only for the anger, but for the grief. Because when we've done our knowledge seeking and when we've come up with all these answers, often what we do is we jump into that fight mode, into that righteousness, into that action, because it feels so pertinent. It's like, wow, I've just learned all this. I have to take action now, right? Because it's so crazy what you learn. But you don't always hold space for the deep grief and the deep grieving process that needs to happen, not just for you, but for your ancestral lineage that has never maybe actually been able to occur within the body and within your body. And something that is really clear and that I think really allows you to go into that is that when you're taking action and when you're in the righteous stage and when you're fighting, you will experience a lot of failure, a lot of frustration, and a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And so it's almost like you have this idealism when you do the knowledge seeking, you get the answers and you're committed and you're passionate and you're going to take action. And then you fight, and you take all that action. But all that happens is that you get so knocked down, you get so burnt out, you get so disillusioned. And often you experience really traumatic incidents. You might be arrested by the police at a protest, or you might see people that you love having that happen to them. You might see people that you love die, at the hands of the system. You might essentially see all of the wounds of everything that you've learned coming to pass, coming to be. And this can really, really just break you apart, right? It can honestly trigger a dark night of the soul. And it's really easy in those moments to just feel wow, there is nothing to hope for. There is nothing to live for. The world is terrible. All I can see is the ways that me, my friends, my community, we're all just being pummeled and hit by this system, and there's no hope. And to just really kind of descend. And I think it's important to say that descent is necessary, and that descent is not easy, and that descent might feel like it's costing you everything. But the most important thing to do is to allow it to pull you under. And rather than in those moments getting to a point where you just want to cause everyone as much pain as they're causing you, where you want to enact as much violence as you can upon the system, where you're just so angry that you want to burn everything in your wake, actually allowing yourself to descend into the grief, because that's harder. It's much harder. And so when you descend into that grief, and when you open yourself to everything that has ever happened, you will have to enter a journey of healing. You will have to, because you will realize that everything is so big that you cannot possibly hold it yourself, hold it within your body, that you need to find a way to increase your capacity for that grief, because that grief is so, so, so huge, because it's collective grief. It's not just your grief, you're holding it all, and you will break open, right? And so that is where the journey of the healing revolutionary begins. And I'm feeling excited even as I start to speak this, because this is where I feel like everything changes and you become someone who is capable of actually becoming the most radiant revolutionary, right? And you don't necessarily see it at that point in time when the dark night of the soul begins and everything's awful. But it is what allows you to start moving into the path that makes it possible for you to become, the bell hooks, the James Baldwin. And I think the reason I use those people as examples, and I think the reason it makes sense to me that they were able to do this so well, is because they're artists, right? They're writers. And there's something so close together about the creative and spiritual paths. And I think we all know this intuitively. We know it when we hear somebody sing from a place of the soul and we just have a spiritual experience. These paths are so close together. And the reason for that is because creativity is alchemy. Creativity is moving something outside of yourself and letting it transform. It's moving an energy out of you. It's moving an emotion out of you, through you, with you. And so when you put it down, whether you're one of those revolutionary writers, writing it on a page, you are transforming that grief. You are alchemizing it. You are changing it. And so that's something that creatives innately have the power to do. And we're all creative in some sense. We all have that power, but we come to it in different ways. And for some of us, our path is a path of artistry, a path of creativity. And so we are pulled into that and we are given a gift in that capacity. But what I think is so beautiful about the spiritual journey is that it makes that possible for each of us. And it makes that something that we innately as humans have the power to do, to alchemize, right? And it gives us all of the different tools and practices and wisdoms of that, which we've forgotten over these generations, and which now we're very much being called back into, and which our ancestors are not letting us live without, because why would we want to live without them, right? And so we're really being called back into this path of alchemy, of transformation. And this path of the healing revolutionary is what enables us to take that weight of that collective grief and build capacity within ourselves to hold it, and build capacity within ourselves to love those who have hurt us, and build capacity within ourselves to understand the journey of each being on this earth, and to understand our own role within this world, to understand our own piece within this puzzle, this revolutionary puzzle of change, of newness, of a new earth, right? And come out the other side of that healing journey as somebody who is not healed, by the way, who is always healing, but who knows how to heal. And that is something I believe we are each capable of, is being someone who knows how to heal. We each have the wisdom of healing. We each know how to heal. It's embodied, it's in our bodies, and we have been so severed from it, and we have forgotten how to do it. And when we come through that journey, and when we equip ourselves essentially with the weapons that we need for the fight, right? Like, that's what these tools and practices are. They're essentially expanding our capacity. So not only can we hold the grief of our ancestors, of our lineages, of our families, of our communities, not only can we hold the fear of the things that we see happening around us, not only can we hold the suffering of people that we're seeing around the world in pain, right? Not only can we hold all of this, we can transform it into love. We can move through life with love that actually creates new possibility, new communities, the new world right where we are. And we wake up each day with love in our hearts, with excitement, with giggles, with softness, and with passion, and with capability, with energy, with the energy to go check on our neighbors, to bring people into our homes, to cook food, to share when the food is running out, right? These are all the things that connection with spirit builds our capacity for. And that's what the healing journey does. It allows us to become the revolutionary warrior we always knew we were. And so when we come back to that, we also find our role in the revolution. We find our gifts. We reconnect with the fact that we were not built to be cogs in a productive capitalist machine, but that we have innate gifts within each of us, and that each of those gifts is so vital to the revolution. And when we come back into connection with those gifts, we become somebody who is capable of showing up at the revolution with so many gifts in our bag, and so much energy to share those gifts, and so much excitement in doing so. And so we go from the stage of being so burnt out, so exhausted, so grief-stricken and angry and nihilistic, to becoming somebody who can look at the exact same world through completely different eyes and rise to respond to the challenge, right? Because nobody is saying this world is easy. But I am saying this world is paradise, and that we each have the ability, the possibility, the capability of making it so, and of bringing everybody into this bliss, right? And that is what I believe we're charged with doing in our lifetimes. And so if I were to say anything to you about this journey of the healing revolutionary, I would just ask you to sit in that, in those stages, in what I've just shared, from that beginning of growing up and being in your incubator, like the circumstances of your life, to that knowledge seeking, to that breaking out of that shell, to that looking for people who understand you, who can speak truth to your experience, who can equip you and give you the power and community that you need to assert your sense of worthiness, your sense of belonging, to that period of righteousness and believing you are the belief system and that everybody needs to think like you and you have the answer, and the fight 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 to the absolute breaking, to the dark night of the soul, to the my body is breaking, my heart is breaking, my family is breaking, my community is breaking. Why am I here? What to do? To the healing, to the true commitment to healing, to the no longer running from healing, to the no longer avoiding healing, to no longer saying, I can't do this, I can't afford it, I can't make time for it, I can't see it, or I've done it, but I'm still tight and angry and sad. Whatever it is, all of those stories that you have, to actually rising into your capacity, to knowing that you are meeting the world as yourself with full courage, with full capacity, with full love, with full forgiveness, with full possibility and newness and energy. Where are you? Where are you? Because once you know where you are, you know what you're ready for. You know where you need to be, and you don't need to rush ahead, but you need to know where you are. You need to know where you are. Now, future episodes, I'll talk about how to approach those pieces of the journey, and depending on where you are, what you can look to. But for now, I'd love us to end with a meditation, end with a prayer. So wherever you are, if you just want to close your eyes, not if you're driving, please. But if you just want to sit down, just stop, just take a second. And I'm going to guide you to picture yourself in your revolutionary role, in that final stage of the journey that I talked about, in that radiance, in that power, in that love, in that forgiveness, in that possibility. And I just want you to know that you are already there. There's a piece of you that's already that. And I just want you to see them. I want you to see them bathed in light. What do they look like? How are they wearing their hair? Do they have hair? How do they feel? What is it like to be in your authority? To know that you have a divine birthright of creating change. To know that you have been anointed into bringing our new earth into being. How does it feel to know that you know how to heal? that any emotion within you is one you can alchemize. That anyone who comes into your path is someone you can love. How does it feel to know how powerful you are? How does it feel to trust yourself, to trust your power, to love your power, to know that your power is pure, that you can trust yourself with it, that you've done the work you need to do to be safe, to be beautiful, to be generative, to be creative. How does it feel to know that you don't drain people? You energize them, you lift them up, you love them. You are all this and more. Your beauty is limitless. And I am so beyond excited to be stepping into this revolution, this healing revolution, this revolutionary healing with you. Beautiful. Now take that image, take that vision with you, and know that's who you're becoming, and that's who you are. I love you. I'm wishing you the most revolutionary, beautiful day, and I can't wait till we commune again. Speak soon. You've been listening to Bitch, That's My Kind of Worship, and you can follow Radical Hotties on Substack for more where that came from. See you next time.